There's a forest so cursed, so terrifying, that even the government refuses to step foot inside. No rescue missions. No investigations. No answers. Locals who wander too close are never seen again. And those who make it out, they're never the same. What's hiding inside these woods? And why has it been completely abandoned? Tonight, we uncover the horrifying truth of the most cursed forest in America. Deep in the heart of insert location, fictional or real, there's a forest so feared that even the US government has declared it off limits. No official reports, no clear warnings, just unspoken rules. Stay out, or you may never return. For decades, stories have circulated. Strange lights, distant screams, people vanishing without a trace. But the deeper you look, the more disturbing the truth becomes, because something is still lurking in those trees. The first recorded incident involving the cursed forest dates back nearly a century. It was supposed to be just another ordinary hiking trip, a group of 5 young explorers eager to document the untouched wilderness. The land, dense with towering trees and an eerie silence, had always been avoided by locals. They spoke in hushed tones about strange happenings in the woods, but no one ever dared to explain why. Despite the rumors, the hikers ventured deep into the heart of the forest. They carried maps, compasses, and enough supplies to last them a week. But that week would never come. Days passed with no word from the group. Their families reported them missing, and a search party was sent out to locate them. What they found was disturbing beyond belief. The hikers' campsite was untouched. Tents stood unzipped, backpacks lay beside them, and a fire pit remained half-burned, as if they had simply walked away in the middle of a meal. There were no signs of a struggle, no tracks leading. Over the following decades, more disappearances occurred. Hunters, hikers, campers, dozens of people who entered the forest simply never returned. And those who did make it out alive, they were changed. Some suffered from extreme paranoia, others developed speech disorders, and a few, well, they refused to sleep with the lights off ever again. In the late 1970s, a journalist named Richard Caldwell decided to investigate. He had heard the stories, the rumors, the bizarre folklore passed down through generations. He didn't believe in curses or ghosts. He was a man of logic and reason. To him, the forest was just an old, overgrown stretch of land where unfortunate accidents happened. Armed with his camera, tape recorder, and a skeptical mind, Caldwell ventured into the forest. He planned to spend 3 nights gathering evidence to debunk the so-called curse. But on the second night, his confidence began to waver. The first strange occurrence was subtle. His compass stopped working. No matter how he turned, the needle spun erratically. Then his radio picked up a strange, garbled transmission, a voice, distant and broken, whispering his name. At first, he convinced himself it was nothing. A glitch, a signal bouncing from somewhere else. But then he heard the footsteps. Not animal footsteps. Not the slow, lumbering movements of a bear or deer. These were human footsteps, light, careful, deliberate. But when he shined his flashlight in the direction of the sound, there was nothing there. Still, Caldwell refused to panic. He stayed in his tent, trying to sleep, but the footsteps never left. They circled his campsite, moving closer. Then they stopped. That's when he heard breathing. Not his own. Something, or someone was standing right outside his tent. Terrified, Caldwell grabbed his camera and unzipped the tent just enough to peek outside. His breath caught in his throat. A figure stood at the edge of the trees, barely visible in the dim moonlight. It was humanoid, but wrong. Its limbs were too long, its head tilted unnaturally to one side, and its eyes, deep, hollow voids, were locked onto him. Caldwell scrambled to grab his camera, but the moment he blinked, the figure was gone. The next morning, he packed his things and fled the forest. He never spoke about what he saw. Years later, his personal journal was found among his belongings. The last entry, scrawled in frantic, almost illegible handwriting, read, "They know when you're watching, but they only move when you aren't." As more incidents occurred, whispers spread that the government was aware of what was happening in the forest, but they weren't warning the public. In fact, they were doing the opposite. In the early 2000s, a group of urban explorers attempted to uncover the truth. They had heard of strange clearings deep in the woods, places where no plants grew, where the ground was oddly smooth, almost artificial. Some believed these were remnants of abandoned government experiments. Armed with night vision cameras and recording equipment, the group set out. But only one of them made it back, and he refused to speak about what happened. The only clue? A single, corrupted video file retrieved from their cameras. The footage was barely watchable, static-filled, shaky, filled with distorted audio. But near the end, just before the video cut out completely, a voice could be heard whispering, "Why did you come back?" The forest remains abandoned to this day. There are no official records, no government reports acknowledging the strange phenomena. But the warnings are there. A weathered, rusted sign stands at the entrance, half covered by overgrown vines. It doesn't say no trespassing. It doesn't say private property. It simply says, "Don't look for them." But the real question is, are they looking for us? Throughout history, there have been countless reports of unexplained sightings and eerie phenomena, events that defy logic, science, and even human comprehension. From shadowy figures lurking in the dark to glowing orbs hovering in the sky, these chilling encounters leave behind more questions than answers. Some believe they are evidence of parallel dimensions, ghosts, or extraterrestrial visitors. Others think they are glitches in reality, brief moments where the veil between our world and the unknown is lifted. But no matter the explanation, one thing remains true: those who witness them are never the same again. Here are some of the most terrifying and unexplainable sightings ever recorded. In the fall of 1998, a woman named Rachel was driving home late at night. She had taken the same rural road for years, a quiet stretch lined with nothing but trees and open fields. That night, however, she felt something was off. The air inside her car grew ice cold, and an overwhelming sense of unease crept over her. Then she saw him. A man stood on the side of the road, directly in the path of her headlights. He was tall, wearing dark clothing, completely still. Rachel's heart pounded. She hit the brakes, stopping just in time. But as she sat frozen, staring at the figure, she realized he had no face, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth, pale skin where his features should have been. Then he started moving. Not walking, gliding. Rachel slammed her foot on the gas and sped away, refusing to look in the rearview mirror. She didn't stop until she was home, shaking, locking every door and window. The next morning, when she checked the local news, she was horrified. Another driver had swerved off that same road late last night, at the exact spot where she had seen the faceless man. Their car was found wrapped around a tree. The driver was dead. No one else had reported seeing a man on the road. But Rachel knew what she had seen, and she never drove that way again. In 2013, a group of campers in Washington state set up their tents deep in the woods, miles away from civilization. It was meant to be an escape, no phones, no distractions, just nature. The first night was peaceful. The second night was different. Just after midnight, they started hearing whispers. Faint, barely audible, but constant. At first, they assumed it was the wind. But then, they realized, the whispers were saying their names. One camper, Ben, grabbed his flashlight and peered into the trees. Nothing. But the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. Then came the laughter. Soft at first, like a child giggling. But it didn't stop. It grew louder. Closer. Surrounding them, terrified, they grabbed their things and ran. When they reached their car, gasping for breath, they turned to look back at the campsite one last time. The laughter had stopped, but standing just beyond the tree line were three figures. Completely still. Watching them, none of them ever spoke about that night again. In 2005, a college student named Daniel moved into a small apartment near campus. It was cheap, quiet, and seemed perfect until he turned on the TV. Late at night, when the apartment was silent, the screen would flicker. Static would briefly interrupt whatever show he was watching. At first, he thought it was a bad signal. But then, he started seeing something in the static. A shape. A person. A man standing in the distortion, staring at him. Every night, it became clearer. The man wasn't just standing still, he was getting closer. One night, Daniel unplugged the TV entirely. He swore he'd never turn it back on. But at 3 a.m., he woke up to the sound of static. The TV was on, and the man was no longer in the screen. He was standing in the room. Daniel doesn't remember what happened next. He woke up the next morning on the floor, his nose bleeding, the TV shattered. He packed his bags and left the apartment that day. When the next tenant moved in, they had no issues. Until they plugged. The vanishing town. In 1971, a small town in Pennsylvania called Halford disappeared overnight. The town was home to roughly 250 people. Nothing out of the ordinary, just a quiet place surrounded by thick woods. But one morning, a truck driver passing through stopped at a gas station near the outskirts. He noticed something strange. the town was silent. No people, no cars, no lights in the windows. The entire town had vanished. Police arrived hours later and found homes fully furnished, dinner tables still set, cars parked in driveways. There were no signs of struggle, no footprints leading away. It was as if every single person had simply ceased to exist. Theories ranged from mass abduction to government cover-ups. But no explanation was ever found. The land was later sealed off, declared unsafe due to toxic conditions. To this day, no one knows what happened to the people of Halford. And no one who enters ever comes back. The eyes in the window. In 1987, a boy named James woke up in the middle of the night to a scratching sound outside his bedroom window. He lived in a second-story house, too high up for an animal. He told himself it was just a tree branch, but the scratching continued. Then, slowly, a face appeared in the window. 2 glowing eyes. A wide, unnatural grin. James screamed, waking his parents. When they rushed in and turned on the lights, the face was gone. They searched the yard below. No footprints. No ladder. Nothing. The next morning, James found something even more terrifying. Scratched into the glass were 3 words. "See you soon." For years, he never saw the face again. But every now and then, he would wake up in the middle of the night, feeling like someone was watching. And in the faint reflection of the window, sometimes he swore he saw those eyes. Unexplained sightings and eerie phenomena happen all over the world. Some can be dismissed, explained away by science or coincidence. But others? They leave behind evidence, stories, warnings, and scars on those who experience them. The real question is, what if it happens to you? Would you believe your own eyes? Or would you convince yourself it was just your imagination? The government's disturbing response. When strange and unexplainable events occur, people often turn to the government for answers. But what happens when the government's response is more terrifying than the mystery itself? Throughout history, there have been countless cases where authorities either ignored, covered up, or reacted in ways that only deepen the fear surrounding an event. Take, for example, the infamous case of the Dyatlov Pass incident in 1959. 9 experienced hikers were found dead in the Ural Mountains under bizarre circumstances, some with crushed bones, others missing body parts, and one with radiation on their clothes. Instead of thorough investigations, the Soviet government quickly sealed the area, declared the deaths caused by an unknown natural force, and buried the case. No further explanation was given, leaving the world to speculate whether it was a military experiment gone wrong or something far more sinister. Another chilling case is the vanishing town of Rio Verde, Brazil. In 1923, an entire village of 600 people disappeared overnight. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just an abandoned town with a cryptic message painted on a school chalkboard. There is no salvation. The Brazilian government refused to investigate further, dismissing the incident as not of national concern. To this day, no official explanation has ever been provided. Even in modern times, government responses to unexplainable events remain unsettling. Take the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, a hotspot for UFO sightings, paranormal activity, and cattle mutilations. When reports of strange creatures and hovering lights increased, the U.S. government bought the property through a shell company linked to the Department of Defense. They conducted secret research but never publicly disclosed their findings. When pressed for answers, they simply stated, "No further information is available." Perhaps the most disturbing response came after the Phoenix Lights incident in 1997, where thousands of people witnessed a massive, silent craft hovering over Arizona. Instead of addressing public concerns, government officials mocked the event, bringing out a man dressed as an alien in a press conference to dismiss the reports as hysteria. Years later, high-ranking officials admitted they knew more than they let on, but remained silent due to national security reasons. The pattern is clear. When something unexplainable happens, governments either deny, dismiss, or deflect, but they never give real answers. Are they hiding something? Do they know more than they're willing to admit? Or is the truth so terrifying that we're better off not knowing? One thing is certain. Whenever the government refuses to explain an event, the fear only grows stronger. And in the silence of their response, the real question lingers. What are they trying to protect us from? The terrifying final encounter. Lisa had spent weeks trying to uncover the truth. The hidden room, the eerie phone calls, the whispers in the dark, each discovery pulled her deeper into something she couldn't explain. But now, standing alone in the house with the walls stripped bare, she realized one thing. she was never supposed to find out. The air was thick with tension. Every shadow in the room seemed to move when she wasn't looking. She clutched her flashlight, its dim beam barely cutting through the darkness. Then it happened. A low, static-filled voice crackled from her phone, despite it being powered off. "Lisa, why did you stop looking?" It was Daniel's voice. But it wasn't just distorted, it was wrong. It carried an emptiness that made her stomach churn. Her breath hitched. "Daniel." Silence. Then, a whisper right behind her. "Found you." Lisa whirled around, but the room was empty. Yet, the air was ice cold. The whisper came again, closer. Too close. The hair on her neck stood up. Something was here. With her. Lisa took a step back, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. That's when she saw it. The hole in the wall she had broken open days ago. The darkness inside shifted. A shape emerged. Not Daniel. Not human. Its limbs were too long, too thin. Its head tilted unnaturally as it crawled out of the hole. The scratching sound of its nails against the wooden floor made her entire body go numb. Then it spoke. Not with a mouth. Not with a voice. But through her phone. "Stay." Lisa turned and ran. Her feet pounded against the floor, the house twisting in ways it never had before. The hallway seemed longer, stretching as if the house itself didn't want her to leave. Her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. Unknown caller. She didn't dare answer. She reached the front door, yanking it open with every ounce of strength. But before she could step outside, a cold hand clamped around her wrist. Lisa screamed. The grip burned, searing her skin like frostbite. She twisted, kicked, fought, until she broke free and stumbled outside. She didn't stop running. Not when the whispers followed. Not when her phone buzzed one last time before the screen cracked and died. Not when she looked back and saw the figure standing in the doorway watching. The house was abandoned after that. No one would buy it. No one would enter. Lisa moved far away, but even now, she swears she can still hear the phone ringing in the dead of night. Telephone receiver, unknown caller. And she knows, deep down, it's still looking for her. The horrifying truth. Lisa thought she had escaped. She moved to a new city, changed her number, and left everything behind. But some things don't stay buried. Some horrors follow you, even when you run. It started small. At night, she would hear faint static from her new phone, even when it was off. A whisper through the speakers of her TV. A shadow in the corner of her eye that disappeared when she turned. Then the call started again. Unknown caller. She never answered. But one night, as she lay in bed, the phone rang again. This time, before she could even decline the call, a notification popped up. One new voicemail. Her fingers trembled as she pressed play. A single word crackled through the speaker. Lisa. Her stomach dropped. It was Daniel's voice. He was still calling. But Daniel was gone. Lisa did what any sane person would do. She contacted the police, showed them the messages, begged them to trace the calls. But they found nothing. Her number wasn't in any records. The calls weren't coming from anywhere. They shouldn't exist. And yet they did. Determined to put an end to it, she did what she swore she never would. She went back. The house stood just as she had left it. Abandoned. Silent. The front door creaked open like it had been expecting her. Inside, the air was thick with something unnatural. A presence. The hole in the wall was still there. The hidden room. The claw marks. But there was something new. A phone. An old, dusty landline sat in the center of the dark room. And it was ringing. Lisa's heart pounded. She didn't want to touch it. She didn't want to know. But something made her pick it up. She pressed the receiver to her ear. Silence. Then breathing. And a voice. You should have never stopped looking. Lisa's body froze. Something shifted in the darkness. A shadow detached itself from the wall, long-limbed, hollow-eyed, moving in a way that wasn't human. The last thing she saw before she ran was the reflection in the broken glass. Her own face, but behind her something else. Something smiling. She never went back after that. But sometimes, when she closes her eyes, she can still hear it. Unknown caller. And she knows. It's still waiting. If you made it this far, tell me in the comments. Would you dare spend a night in this forest? Or do you think something sinister is really happening here? And if you love terrifying mysteries like this, hit that subscribe button, because trust me, the next story is even darker. Stay safe out there. Or at least try.